My 10-foot long American cichlid tank needs some more fish. But what should I put in there? So I've been thinking about getting this fish for quite a while, and I haven't pulled the trigger yet because there's a possibility that he could kill everyone in the tank, and that's a pretty good reason to not get a fish, right? But I'm willing to take some risk with this tank. I mean, some things that won't work in a 125-gallon tank will work just fine in a tank this size because there's so much room to evade an aggressor and set up territories without it affecting the whole tank. So I've decided to order this fish from my local fish store. It came in, I'm gonna go pick him up. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Stick around because I'll be doing a brief profile on all my South and Central American nutjob cichlids in San Quentin. That's the name of this big ass tank, by the way. Pretty cool name, right? Okay, back to the story. Fish World is my go-to for local fish store type things. It's by far the best shop in the Spokane Coeur d'Alene area. Lots of tanks for you to check out. But this row right here is my favorite, Cichlid Central. Sometimes I find some great fish here, but this time, however, I've ordered my fish. And here's my special order. Hi, little guy. You don't look like a ruthless destroyer, do you? No, you don't. And from my research, there's a pretty good chance he won't be, but you never know. Here's Jordan, the aquatic megamind, catching my little guy for me. You probably want to know what kind of fish is being bagged up for me, don't you? Patience. Be warned though, it's a really good one. Okay, into the super hot looking Prius you go. Notice the black Batman decal. Back home, he's going to be living in this 23-gallon grow-out quarantine tank with his new roommates, Eel Longoria, my tire track eel, and a couple of pandawarus. Let's float this Vieja. That's right, I said Vieja melanura, or synspillum. Probably mispronounced all of that. Beautiful little guy who's going to get big, and I mean really big. I'll tell you more about him in just a little bit once he gets used to his new digs. But first, so is it going to be a huge mistake adding this fish to San Quentin? I've done my research and I know that this fish can be ultra aggressive, but I also have read accounts where it's been a peacekeeper in the tank, even breaking up fights amongst other fish. And I think what it comes down to, and you learn this with African cichlids, is that each fish is its own individual. And you can end up with a complete psychopath with one, and then you buy the same fish later on, and it turns out to be completely fine. So why don't we check in with a friend of mine who has one of these Viejas. It's Ben Ochart. He has his own fish channel with beautiful fish and great information. And let's find out what his Vieja has been up to.
I understand you're growing out a Vieja. Beautiful fish. You can see mine right here. You can catch him on the camera. Just a gorgeous fish. This is more of the traditional common Vieja. Sometimes they call it a redhead cichlid. It goes by a lot of different names. I've had other types of Viejas, like a Zonatus, right? A blue Vieja, but that was just a stone cold killer. Had to get rid of him. This one is very mellow, but only after he became the only Vieja in the tank. When I had several Viejas, they were really hard on each other until one of them established dominance, and then that dominant Vieja would beat up the other ones. Maybe if I had 6 or 7, right, like maybe like an overstocked Vieja tank, because I've seen them in breeder, people that breed and sell them, they'll have 50 Viejas in one tank, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of fin damage. But certainly, if you keep 2 or 3, there's going to be some consequences, and they're very, very hard on each other. Now, that being said, alone, the only Vieja in the tank, these are just a complete mellow, cool fish. Doesn't mess with anybody. Nobody messes with him. I mean, he's very thick and large, probably pushing over 10 inches. Certainly as big as my red tiger, Oscar. And just on sheer size, nobody messes with him. Even Sally the Salvini down there, who tends to chase everybody, keeps her distance for the most part from the Vieja. So I do recommend them. I do recommend that you either keep a large group of them or keep a single Vieja, because they will become very, very competitive over time. Beautiful coloration, beautiful markings. As they get older, they get even more colorful. They start off kind of as a gray, dull gray, like a lot of young fish, and then blossom into just a combination of colors that are just absolutely beautiful. So very, very much recommended in a tank where you're going to have larger fish that can hold their own. Certainly include a Vieja in there. All right. Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.
Definitely some great information from the legendary Ben Ochart. Makes me feel better about how this will all turn out. And I was thinking about getting a different type of Vieja as well, but I think I'll just stick with this one. Thank you, Ben. Subscribe, and you will be rewarded richly. So now let me talk about the inmates that are already in San Quentin. I'll talk about their maximum sizes, their aggression levels so far, and then what I expect to happen after these guys hit full maturity as far as aggression goes. Might as well kick it off with this guy. It's Kevin, my electric blue Texas Cichlid. I originally wanted a regular old Texas Cichlid, but I thought they might be a little over the top aggression-wise, so I dug around and found out about this less aggressive version. But even with being less aggressive than a regular Texas, he's still the most aggressive fish in the tank so far, a bit of an a-hole. Fish typically get more aggressive as they mature, but right now he's just offering small chases and hasn't really put the beat down on anyone, which I'm really thankful for because I like him and I want to keep him. I think he's just beautiful, and he'll probably only get more beautiful as he reaches his maximum size of about 8 inches. This here is the only San Quentin inmate that Kevin is afraid of. I can tell he wants to be dominant over her, but he's just too chicken, and she doesn't have any respect for him whatsoever, no fear at all. She's a Salvini, which is one of the more aggressive smaller cichlids. She'll top out at about 5 inches, so she's pretty close to that already. She'll chase Kevin very briefly, but she really has no interest in chasing anyone else, so pretty mellow for this type of fish. A viewer commented that this is a female, but I'd expect more red on the belly than this, so I'm starting to wonder if she's a he. Let me know if you have any idea. As she matures, I expect her pretty much to find a spot she likes on the bottom of the tank and guard it, but I don't think she'll cause much of a fuss in this huge tank. And I don't think the bigger guys will mess with her as they mature either. I have 2 Jack Dempseys in here, a larger one who's around 3.5 inches, and another little one who, if I'm not careful, will wind up as one of the other inmates' rations for the day. I've been told that the larger of the 2 is a female, which would be unfortunate because they don't really get as beautiful as the males. The males are incredibly gorgeous, probably the prettiest cichlids I've ever seen. Should wind up around the 6 to 8 inch mark once fully grown, maybe a little bigger. They have a reputation for being super aggressive, but from what I've researched, they'll actually be on the less aggressive side, and I don't expect much trouble from them. Not sure about having 2 of them in the same tank due to conspecific aggression, but again, with a tank this size, it might not be an issue even if it normally would be one. This here is my chocolate cichlid, who loves to look up to the heavens for his next meal. That's why he oftentimes is swimming somewhat vertically, eyes at the top. He's scanning for insects that might wander into my tank, which would probably never happen, but he'll be ready if it ever does. If you look at the other videos of this fish from other people, you'll see that this is a common trait, swimming somewhat vertically. Pretty strange and cool, I think. He kind of has some Oscar characteristics. I mean, I would actually think he was an Oscar once he gets bigger. He'll top out around 12 inches like the Oscars do, and he's pretty peaceful. He won't mess with anyone, and others will probably leave him alone too. Speaking of Oscars, this is my wild Colombian Oscar. Oscars are super fast growers, and he's already probably doubled in size since I brought him home about 2 months ago. I love the symmetrical circle that's on each side of his tail. I think Oscars are usually pretty darn ugly, but this one, he's pretty cool looking. He'll grow to about 12 inches and that should about do it. Oscars are funny fish. They can be very aggressive or not so aggressive at all, and it just depends on which one you get. So far he's engaged in a few small chases, but I won't know how he'll wind up until he gets much larger. I need to make a quick apology for something that I said in my last video, and that's my Oscar. I said his name was Miguel, and that wasn't his original name. My wife had named him Percy, and I said that was okay. And then right before the video, I changed it to Miguel at the last moment, and I didn't even tell her. And so she was super mad that I did that. And in order to keep things civil around here, and she's letting me keep these tanks in the house, his name's going back to Percy. It's a good name. I mean, we'll all enjoy Percy. And then we have my mouth-brooding Severum. He'll just be along for the ride because Severums in general are very peaceful fish. As long as no one puts a hit on him for being a wuss, he should be fine, and as far as size goes, we're probably looking about 8 to 10 inches for Severums. He's really tiny right now though, so he'd better pick up the pace. Now for the fish that I think has the coolest name of any of my fish, including my African cichlids, and they have some cool names. You're looking at Sparkle Joe, my green terror named from my 4-year-old grandson Logan. He also named Kevin, by the way. But Sparkle Joe, an amazing name, and it fits because he's so sparkly. The green terror sounds like he'd be a nightmare of a fish, doesn't he, by the name? But by my research, the name is worse than their actual dispositions. He's got a lot of growing to do, topping out at about 12 inches or slightly less. He's only about 3 inches right now, and he's one of the most docile fish in the tank. No one at all respects him, so he's frequently getting very brief ass whoopings from everyone around him. He'll probably turn into a big psychopath once he realizes he's actually a tough guy at maturity. Payback time. I think he's actually a gold som, so if you want to waste your time in the Green Terror gold som debate, just Google it and you'll be set for life. The Vieja is still pretty timid after a week, and it's really hard to get some good clips of him. He comes out when I'm gone, but zooms back for cover as soon as he sees me coming. Some people actually do that too, by the way. Anyway, I said he's going to get big. Well, he's possibly going to get up to 14 inches at maturity, which even with my 435-gallon tank is stretching my comfort zone just a little bit. I like my fish to have lots of room. If he's a male, he could also get one of these nuchal humps on his forehead, just like Uri, my African cichlid blue dolphin, is going to get. Then I'll have 2 fish using their mind control powers to get me to feed him more. I'm keeping him in this little quarantine tank for another 2 weeks or so by the time this video is released, and then he'll begin his new life as an inmate of San Quentin, where I believe he'll be the happiest Vieja who ever lived. Leave a comment and let me know what you think of this whole thing, and also if you've had any experiences with adding aggressive fish to your tanks. Let us all know about that too. Be sure to subscribe if you want to get updates on all my tanks, and until next time, that's a wrap.